Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison, Christe eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Pater de celis Deus, miserere nobis, Filii Redemptor mundi Deus, miserere nobis, Spiritus Sancte Deus, miserere nobis, Sancta Trinitas Unus Deus, miserere nobis.
Hello, my name is Anthony Gonzalez. Welcome to The Catholic Faith Explained. Today's lesson number 2, on objective reality versus subjective reality. Last lesson, we discussed what the Catholic Church really is all about. And we came to the conclusion that it's about a love relationship, a relationship in which we have an intimate, ongoing communion with God and also a loving relationship with one another. That is the essence of the Catholic faith and what the Catholic faith ultimately is all about. In order for us to have a relationship, we have to have knowledge. It is a matter of revelation. It is a matter of understanding and knowing the other. This is all a part of relationship. In order to really comprehend what underlies knowledge and relationship, we have to go through some definitions. The first concept that I want to discuss today, and that is objective reality. That's anything, concept, or an idea that exists independent of being perceived. So in other words, reality exists, something that actually and factually exists outside and separate from any mind perceiving it. I'll give you an example of this. The earth, the stars, people, nations, I could go on a million different things, existed long before you were born and before you even knew that they existed. They existed outside of you. They are separate from you. Existence of reality. And we experience this every minute of every day. That's how we live our life. That's how we function in the world, is we recognize that things are real and that I am able to have a relationship with things. I can grab a ball and I can throw that ball. It is something that is outside of me that I can in some way or another interact with. I live in a real world that exists and that I can touch, feel, see, smell, communicate with. Objective reality. The subjective reality is my communication with the objective reality. It's the individual mind conforming to the external reality outside of itself. That is what subjective means. It means you, the subject, perceives an object outside of itself. And it then conforms, the mind conforms to it. So let me give you an example of that. I see an oak tree. And when I look at that oak tree, I see green leaves. I see that the leaves of that oak tree are very specific and unique to oak. Oak trees have a specific shape, and their leaves have a specific shape. It comes from an oak. My subjective response to that is I see color. I see green. I see that it has a certain shape. I can feel it, and I can tell that the leaf of an oak tree is completely different from that of an elm tree or a pine tree. Pine trees have needles All of these things are my observation of objective reality. Now, the subjective reality is very specific to me and to you, so that you can see that oak tree and you can see that oak leaf and you can smell the smell around that oak tree, and it will bring back memories of things past. In other words, maybe something very wonderful happened underneath an oak tree when you were young and you had a picnic with the family. And so not only does the oak tree represent an objective reality outside of you, but it also evokes emotional response from within you because of things that took place in the past or even in the present that are taking place right now. Subjective reality, therefore, has subjective responses, has individual responses to the objective reality outside of us. All of these things are very important when we're dealing with relationships, because if you've noticed, in each thing that I've discussed, the objective and the subjective, there's a relationship. I have a relationship to that object outside of me in one way or another. And that becomes more specific, it becomes more intimate, it becomes more real when it's another thinking human being or when it's God. There is a reality to that which is even greater and more powerful in me than in anything else. So I can have a relationship, and you'll notice that there's always a degree to that relationship. And that relationship deals with knowledge. So that's what the subjective and the objective, that's what that is. That's knowledge. My perception of the objective reality is knowledge. I know that that's an oak tree. And knowledge can come to us in many different ways. There's what we call empirical knowledge. That is, I can test it, I can go and I can feel it, I can see it, I can examine it. That's empirical knowledge. And scientific knowledge, which is empirical knowledge, studies all of these objective realities and examines them to see how they work, how reality works, how physics works. All of the different things that are involved in science have to do with empirical knowledge. There's also intuitive knowledge. This is knowledge that is not perceived by the senses necessarily, but is perceived by the, let's say, sixth sense. That is, our spirit can receive knowledge outside of empirical knowledge. And of course, then we get into infused knowledge, which comes directly to us from God and is given to us as a gift. So there's many different forms of knowledge, but in this knowledge comes truth or falsehood. And that's ultimately what objective and subjective reality, it comes down to truth. It comes down to accuracy. It comes down to reality. Is what I perceive to be real? Is what somebody tells me true or false? Is it partially true? Can I trust what that individual says to me? Can they demonstrate what they mean or what they have said is true? Or can I find out if it's false or if it's true? Truth is something that is of the mind. Truth is objective reality. Truth is objective and it exists outside of me. But truth is not necessarily objective reality. It's my perception of the objective reality. It's the accuracy of my perception of the objective reality. So when I look at that oak tree and I see that it's an oak tree and I can verify that it is actual, then I have true knowledge. My knowledge is true. It's accurate. It's correct. And it is the same way with things that are false, because I can look at something and I can see it but maybe it's an illusion. And we've all seen these illusory things where they look like they're going in one direction, but in fact they're going in an opposite direction. And I'll show that to you on this video, where it looks like it's one way, but in fact it's another. And so therefore our knowledge really is false. It's really not true of that thing. You may say, well, that thing is blinking. But in fact, it's not blinking. It's my mind playing or my eyes playing subjective trick on my mind. All of this is very important in relationship. Again, I'm going back to relationship because that's what this is all about. Relationship has to be based on truth. If it's to be a real, true relationship, it has to be based on reality. If it's not real, then I cannot have a real relationship with it. I can have a relationship with an idea, but that's ethereal. It's a ghost. It's a phantom. And the whole point of Christ coming to earth and giving us the fullness of the Catholic faith was that we would really know Him, really know God, who we are, what we are in light of God, to understand creation and to understand the fullness of creation as He created it. Because in that comes our knowledge of moral truth and moral reality. And moral reality has to do with the behavior that exists within the objective reality that exists. I know that this is really deep stuff, but I want you to understand it, because when we get to the essence of what truth is and what love is, you're going to have to understand these things first. All right, I guess that's it for this particular lesson. I hope it's not too heavy. And again, I'm trying to keep these things within a period of about 15 minutes so that the subject can be thought about and understood in many different ways. So thank you very much, and I will speak to you again with lesson 3. God bless you.
Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison, Christe eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Pater de celis Deus,